Go ahead.
All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning, sorry, good evening. This is Bethel Township's Bethel Local Schools regular school board meeting on May 11th, 2020. It's 7:02 p.m. Brennan, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. King,
Here.
Ms. Reese,
Present.
Ms. Sebastian,
Here.
Ms. Mansfield,
Here.
Mr. Elam.
Here.
Mute button got me, not starting out well. Please rise and listen to me recite the Pledge of Allegiance. That way it won't be all of us talking at once. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we have any additions to the agenda? The only addition that we have on the web loaded here, other than the Will Scott modulars. Okay.
Yep, Mr. King, the only other addition would be if the board wanted to consider, or do you guys want to take more time to think about the ranking system? And if you're going to wait till October, or if you want to proceed in July. But I guess that could be for more discussion later on if need be.
A copy, I think maybe we could discuss that under the, when we get the facilities report from the board, and then we can go into some of that discussion.
Yeah, that works for me. Just wanted to make you aware.
Copy, thank you, sir. All right. There's no old business to review. Moving on to the next section would be administrative reports. Turn it over to Mr. Firks.
Yes, sir. Well, we have our principals here this evening. They're going to provide you with an update in regards to school fees for the 2020-2021 school year. That will be on the agenda this evening for Board of Education consideration. So with that being said, I will turn it over to the elementary, and it could either be Ms. Petty or a combination of Ms. Petty and Mrs. Roll.
Board members, just to let you know, we did try to cut down everywhere we could with the guidance of Mr. Firks and Mr. Hattery. The biggest addition to all school fees this year will be the adoption of our new language arts reading series. And that will be a series of workbooks that would add an additional cost of $20. You'll see that in blue. The other items we have taken off and are going to try to cover those with a building budget. And then some of those items have also been reduced. So the red is what we had last year, or what we have reduced from last year's price to the upcoming school year. And we are open for any questions that you might have about that.
So this is Julie.
Yes.
Can you just explain about the workbook? Is this, it looks like it's new to the list.
It is.
And the math workbook as well?
No, the math workbook is exactly the same cost as what it was in the previous years.
Okay, gotcha.
So the language arts workbook is a brand new series and edition. And that is the cost for, I believe it's at least 2 workbooks for each grade level. That would be the primary piece that the children would be working with along with the teacher.
Okay, and did we had one last year? It was just a different one.
No, we did not have one last year.
Okay, thank
We
you.
had some workbooks, but we did not have anything that was costing at that time. They had already been paid for up through the years.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
This is Jacob. The question I have in regards to the overall cost,
Yes.
the board has really set forth
Mhm.
a goal of trying to reduce all fees, if not eliminate those fees from any of
Right.
the grade levels as we
Sure.
go forward. And then as we see here, we go, although we're trying to cut some costs, our costs are still escalating
Right.
in the wrong direction upward.
Mhm.
That if you wouldn't have reduced any of your normal fees, it would have almost consumed,
Right.
would all stay close to the same amount.
I will say that Mr. Borchers, our curriculum director, who does work with the companies in regards to new adoptions, he did approach the company about not ordering the workbooks, but that was not an option. When you buy that complete series, the workbook options, it's my understanding from him that that is not an option for us not to buy the workbooks. So he did check into that.
So with our planning of switching over to this curriculum or utilizing this new program,
Yes.
will we have not included that in the normal budget for elementary in the future requests with Mr. Hattery as he's doing
Mhm.
budgeting, so it wouldn't be passed on to the community again?
Well, typically, anytime that you have any type of workbook, which is considered a consumable, that is typically covered by your school fees. Typically, any type of an adoption would be covered through the district funds, would not necessarily be something that would be covered by the building, is my understanding, or it never has been in my previous experiences.
If I could add some light to that, when the district last adopted a new edition for English,
Mhm.
they paid everything up front.
Yes,
We are going to pay it over a 6-year plan.
that's correct.
They weren't able to get us the final contract, so most likely you'll see the approval of that plus the new English adoption in the June board meeting,
Mhm.
and we discussed it at the work session. We didn't get the numbers in time,
Mhm.
so that's why there was no cost related to English the last couple of years, because
Mhm.
they were all up paid front the first year it was purchased.
Mhm.
So the question that I have is, how do we get to the point where we aren't passing on additional fees to the community so that we're able to manage this in-house? And this may not be a question specifically for Ms. Petty, but for Mr. Hattery, at what point do we eliminate these additional school fees? Or will we be able to?
Well, it's really whatever the board would like to take on as a district.
Mhm.
Like I've said in the past, we've made very good strides in cutting other fees, but also we were able to compensate cutting those fees by having better operational expenditures and improvement in efficiencies. The board is always willing and take some of these fees and have the district pay itself,
Mhm.
but it's really how much does the district want to take on. As we've had an operating surplus last year, and we're pretty confident we're going to have one this year. And so it's really the input that the board wants from the administrators on if the board wants to take on some of those fees that are being presented. Every school district is different. Some do have fees, some don't. It's really a discussion of what the board is willing to take on, to be honest.
Okay. And then I know we're going to go through the middle school and the high school as well, but why was elementary the only one that went up? Is it just because of this new workbook?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I jump in here real quick?
Yes, sir.
Because I don't see my sheet up there. The one I turned in to you for my board meeting did show no increase, but Jay did talk to me that he was going to tell Brennan to change mine from 10 to 20 because of the workbook as well.
Okay.
All right, copy that. Yours will be next, I believe, sir.
Okay.
So, and looking at these fees, as your treasurer, what I would ask the board or is for input is, if you have a concern that because of the increase, like you see some of the stuff there is already going to be included in instructional supplies for next year for the elementary. You always can move those, some of the other costs there too, hence, but you take on more of the district takes more on the responsibility of those costs. So you do have flexibility, but once you go that way, it's going to be hard to go back the other way if the, you know, depending on what happens in the next year or two. And, you know, I know that the board has tried not to go back to the community for more money. So that's just a thing to keep on your back of your mind, because once you take those fees away, it's going to be kind of hard to try to put them back on.
Okay. So I just don't feel comfortable going back to the community after we have said time and time again that we will reduce our fees and not go back up until we found ourselves in a significant fiscal environment where we couldn't pay for those fees anymore. Mr. Firks, would it be appropriate to say, could you coordinate between Mr. Hattery and the elementary to figure out how we can not raise the fees for next year? Or would that be elementary and Mr. Hattery?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, absolutely. We can have conversations in regards to that, as we did this year on numerous occasions in regards to school fees. It won't be done for this year, but as we get to this time frame next year, and we're looking at the following school year, we will continue to have additional conversations in regards to fees.
That was my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any further questions for elementary? Okay.
All right. Letter B, we'll move on to Mr. Ziegler for middle school updates for school fees.
I share with you a couple of items of some positives that are still going on in education. The Power of the Pen competition will be virtually held this coming Saturday, and all 9 of our writers are signed up and ready to participate this Saturday. So good luck to them and Mrs. Seaback. Also, 3 of our 6th graders that are in the gifted program participated in the Spring Ohio Stock Market Challenge and came in 3rd place. I think they invested money and made over a 10-week period almost $7,000 in the stock market. And we're trying to add some new programs that do not have a fee to go with them. And if we can go back to the fee schedule now. You see 15 categories there. 8 of them, the agenda, math, science, art, Spanish, band, choir, and multimedia did not change at price. Those were all the same. 2 decreased, that's the computer printer usage and technology. 1 we dropped totally off, and that's the workbook for 7th grade social studies. There were 2 classes, the ones opposite band. If you don't take band or choir, you're in as a 6th grader, Info Lit, which had a tech program, which we dropped out of for next year, but they wanted to leave the $3 on for the quilt making project that they have in that class. And that's why you see a decrease in the Info Lit. It was under the technology pricing last year. Graphic arts was under arts. They have actually been using a lot of our art supplies and felt it needed to. That's one we're adding in now. They've been using out of the art supplies, but felt after looking at what they were using and pricing it out, it didn't have to be at the art price. They could reduce that to $5. But I believe that is a brand new cost. We've just been using the supplies out of the art class. And STEM and multimedia are the 2 we are increasing. I'm sorry, multimedia is the same. Lab skills and STEM are the 2 classes that if the board wants to hold it, we found out lab skills was a brand new class. It started this year. There was no discussion of what that cost was going to be. It is all lab throughout the class, and that is a true reflection of the cost. It was $5 this year. So if we don't want to increase, I would ask that we at least change it back to 5, because the district is already eating a part of that. And STEM class was the same way. It is a tech class. That's why it's a combination of tech and art. And in talking to Mr. Oldigus, I didn't pull all the receipts in for this one, but he says that is a true expense for that class. But that's one that if the board would like, we can put it with the tech group and put it back at 3. But just know the district is eating part of that cost. And the English and reading, and talking to Jay, he even tried to get the company to allow us to just purchase some books, but then copy the pages and run them for kids, and they would not allow that. So there are a couple of areas that the board wishes us to leave it where it's at. That would be the STEM and the lab skills.
Mr. King, do you guys have any comments or remarks in regards to that?
I had a couple questions, and that was, is the lab skills class and the STEMs class, are both those required classes or electives?
Lab skills is elective. STEM is one of the 9-week rotation classes.
Where all the students in 7th grade will rotate through?
That is correct.
Okay.
This year, we offered a 5th choice, so it actually cut down. It isn't every kid that goes in it. They can choose to take it, or they can take 4 other items.
Okay. Those were my questions. I don't know if any of the other board members have questions.
Appreciate you adding some new classes to the middle school curriculum, Mr. Ziegler.
We are trying to, and it's your staff that are, all I did was ask, would they be willing to start something? And the ones I had listed on that last page are the ones they have come to me and said they'd be willing. Now, those haven't gone out on sheets. I'll be doing a 1 call to let folks know we're adding those, because I'm faced with a dilemma. I had way too many kids want to take Spanish and high school phys ed than what I have periods for. So they're going to have other options.
Well, does it
Mr.
sound
Ziegler.
fair, does it sound fair for the STEM class, since it is everybody has to take it, that would be, it might be one that, I know it'd be only $2 or $3, but it would be something of a reduction, and it would hit everybody.
Well, that would be fair with the others that are going back to $3. So
Mr. Ziegler, this is great point, Danny. Mr. Ziegler, do you believe that you have a lot of students trying to take Spanish 1 and phys ed because there's no additional fees specifically for those classes, or are those just a high wanted class?
I believe probably the interest is because they get high school credit for it as an 8th grader.
Copy. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Ziegler, how many sections of Algebra 1 and Spanish are there at the middle school in the fall?
This coming up, well, there'll be 2 in Spanish. And right now, if I can work it out in the schedule, there'll be 2 in algebra.
And then how are you determining the kids that get to take Spanish versus those who won't be able to?
Well, when I was here a few years ago, there was a criteria to get into Spanish in the 8th grade for high school credit. And that was A's or A's and B's in English. I can get it down to about 60 kids if we invoke that criteria again. We have to invoke some kind of criteria because I can't schedule 100 kids into 2 periods.
My only comment would be, I think that needs to be part of the course of study moving forward.
I agree.
Okay.
You're right.
And I think historically 2 classes of algebra have covered the kids that are willing to take it. It was just a weird fluke this past year that we only offered 1. So, okay, thank you.
Mm.
Thank you. I think your methodology for deciding who, cutting the number of requests down to those acceptable for Spanish 1 makes logical sense to me. But I'm not as smart as you, sir. So,
Well, there were probably enough I could have used 4 sections of Spanish and I could have used 3 sections of phys ed, but I got to get that one down to 1.
Okay.
Because you have to have the high school certification. Mr. Quinzel and Mrs. Vokey do not have a K-12 certification, so it wouldn't count as high school credit.
Are there any available spots, Mr. Ziegler, in the high school Spanish 1 classes that they're trying to round out some of those classes? Because that licensure is 7 to 12. So that might help with some kids that want to get in there if we need to find a couple spots.
The location is pretty close. We could make it into the rooms. You're right.
Right.
That's up to Mr. Swope.
I mean, of course.
At this point, the number of freshmen that have requested Spanish 1 is greater for next year than it was for this year, to the
Okay.
point where I'm already adding 1 section of Spanish 1,
Mhm.
and it's going to have between 25 and 30 kids in each section. So Spanish is hot right now, I guess.
Absolutely. Just worth asking.
All right.
The only other thing, I'll add one more thing about after I set the criteria to get into Spanish, because it did seem there was a high correlation of kids that selected both. I'm going to arbitrarily say they don't get to get both. There will be 30 others that requested high school phys ed that didn't get the Spanish that will get first option to getting into phys ed. Just trying to be fair.
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
Excellent. Any other questions for Mr. Ziegler?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry,
That's cool.
Jacob. I was on,
Oh.
I had to unmute there. Yeah, so I just have a question. I'm a little concerned, I guess, that they're not able to take phys ed. Is that what I'm hearing? There's only going to be 1 class offered?
That is correct.
Okay. I mean, it seems like with all the studies out there saying that the the physical release of energy is a
Well, they
very
can still
important.
take phys ed, just not for high school credit.
Okay.
Right.
And this is in middle school.
That's correct.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
And if we have other phys ed time available, I don't mind letting them know it can go in under the electives portion rather than for high school credit, but I don't have a teacher time to do that. I'm using the teachers that I'm being given right now for the periods I'm given to fill the classes.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions for Mr. Ziegler? Okay, we'll move on to high school principal, Mr. Swope, for an update in regards to his school fees for 2020-21.
Let's see here. As you can see, I put last year's rate, this year's 1920 rate, and then the proposed rate for next year. So you can kind of see that. The copier printer paper use, we're going from 6 to 3 for next year. The handbook agenda, I moved from 9 to 5 this year, and I'm going to stay with that same vendor and get the agenda books for $5 again. As you can see, the Spanish workbooks, they weren't being used, so got rid of those for this year. They're remaining gone for next year. The science fees, as you can see coming up next there in the list, those all stayed the same from this year going into next year. Same thing with the art courses, art 1, 2, 3, and 4 fees are all staying the same as what they are this year. Choir staying the same. 2 years ago, there was 2 different fees for band. There was the high school band fee, then there was the marching band fee, and it involved the same kids, the same students. So as you can see, it's been wrapped up into marching band / concert band, and those 2 fees were put together. The senior class fee, Brennan told me that the last couple of years there's been a carryover in that, so decided to lower that by $10 going into next year. The parking pass fee, we're getting rid of that. That money just would pretty much go into the principal's fund. It didn't really, I mean, the little stickers we have to buy to put in the windows of the students' cars don't cost $25 each. So we got rid of that for this year. Business class staying the same. The at the bottom there, there's life skills, graphic design, digital media and communications, game design, web design, and computer programming. Those are all new fees this year, or going into next year rather. Life skills is a brand new class, and it is pretty much what its name says it is. It's a semester long class. They'll be doing all kinds of different things, from learning how to change a tire to learning how to iron a shirt to some basic how to make grilled cheese, things along those lines. Just some basic life skills lessons that students, they've asked for a class similar to this. So there is of course a cost with that. Those would all be consumables that the kids would be using in that class. The graphic design, digital media communication, game design, web design, computer programming, those are all computer tech classes. And talking with Mr. Oldigus, there's some things he wants to do where each kid would have to have various online accounts and programs in order to help move that computer tech program forward. So that's what those fees are there for. I think that's it.
Mr. Swope, I was asked by a parent today who the teacher is in life skills, and wondered if that had been decided yet.
If what? I'm sorry.
If who the teacher is for the life skills class. A parent asked me today, and
It's Mr. Oldigus. Mr. Oldigus, the computer tech teacher.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Mr.
Swope, this is Jacob.
Yep.
The question I have is, for in the life skills through computer programming, are those all elective classes or mandatory classes, or
those are all electives? Those are all electives.
Okay.
Mr. Swope, I have a question. In looking at the band fees, is the $50 marching band fee a holdover from the fees that were originally placed on all extracurricular and so forth and marching band as well? Is this a holdover? And is that $50 part of the family cap?
I do believe it is like a participation fee like you do have for all the sports teams. And as far as going into the cap, I'm not sure about that one. I would assume so, but I'm not sure.
It's not. I can answer that. It's not included in the cap.
Okay.
I think
maybe it should be though.
I think that it used to be.
I would think it should be too.
Yeah, if it was 3 or 4 years ago, because I talked to Reagan extensively and she said no. So I'm just, in fact, I think we changed the fee at one point, but then it got on here this way. But no, it historically, at least 2 years ago, I don't think anybody was paying the fee, Danny. So it just wasn't collected. When the previous superintendent came after 2 years, I think it was collected.
I mean, obviously the board can, make decisions as they see fit, but maybe to consider this as a part of an extracurricular and include that in the cap, but that's just a suggestion.
Well, the thinking was to cover all the travel.
That would make sense.
Yes. I sure would like to see that happen.
You'd like to see it included as in the cap?
Yes.
I'm assuming you're meaning travel as far as Saturday contests?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
or what, you know, contest for concert band and so on, any kind of travel that happens with the band, since the band does so much more traveling than the choir.
That makes sense.
So to add a little more thought to that, just to let you know, I haven't done it for this school year, but for last school year, you have to reallocate costs related to this. So for the numbers I got from the building secretaries as well as Gail, we had 52 students pay the fee, which is $50 related to the marching band one. So that was a total of $2,600, and we had a total of $2,558 in expenditures related to the trips related to marching band for 18-19 school year. I haven't done this year yet. So I'm just letting you know that it's covering the costs that we have incurred.
Sounds like that was measured off just about right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying do away with it, but
no. But I haven't done it for 1920 yet. But that's on my book list to do. But I wanted to let the board know and people listen and community listening that it does cover basically what we have in expense wise, right. And that's for mileage, for the gas to use, as well as the bus driver charges.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know how many kids still play ball that are in band, but we used to have just about everybody used to at one time. So I don't know. I think that'd be a nice help toward the cap.
It is, but it also creates a lot of tracking for Reagan potentially. So, I mean, and then the question is, we've basically taken those funds from athletics that, you know, we've already reduced athletic funds the last couple years. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings. I don't want to shortchange anyone.
Right. Good points, Danny and Julie. But not looking at the fundraise between band and athletics versus viewing it in one viewpoint of the family. And I think that these marching band and concert band, both those fees should be included in the overall cap that we pay for the extracurriculars, because it is in the same fashion as football to me. Marching band is the same as baseball and basketball, and the concert band travels and does all the extracurricular hours as well. So, I mean, it falls in line with that, in my opinion. But Mr. First, would this have to be, for that to be changed, is that a policy change or is that a board motion that would have to be done?
No, I don't believe, Brendan, Mr. Hattery can correct me. It wouldn't be a board policy. It would just be I guess a recommendation from the board. And then obviously the building principal can resubmit an adjusted dollar amount. And then if it suffices the board's wishes, they would just approve that as a fee. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
So $50, I'm just clarifying, $50 of that overall fee would count toward the athletics overall fee. Is that what we're saying?
Right.
Okay, great.
This is Julie. I have a question about the parking pass fee.
Okay.
That parking is more of a privilege than anything on the list here. So I thought we had talked about this before and decided we were going to keep this fee.
That was brought up in previous discussions, but obviously no decisions were made in regards to that. We did look at other options as far as if we were going to continue to charge, what we could allow the students to do with the spots as far as decorating other districts, but there were no decisions in regards to that. And obviously not speaking for Mr. Swope, I'm personally glad to see him eliminate that, because obviously where our students park is where the most ample parking is located. And I felt like we were charging a group of our district here that probably doesn't have the amount of money to pay for that, and it was basically going to get charged to families. But that's just my thoughts on that, and Mr. Swope can speak on it as well.
I just see it as there are many districts that charge a lot more than that, but that is because parking is at a premium and not every student gets to drive to school. Whereas we have currently anyway, currently have ample parking out back. The district I came from previously, the fee was like $10. So, I mean, 25 per student plus to try to track down who's paid it and who hasn't paid it. That becomes an issue as well. And you know, if one of the goals is to decrease fees on the community, on the parents, then I thought this was a fee that we can get rid of.
Probably enforcement is probably a problem as well.
Yeah, like I said, trying to determine who's paid, who hasn't paid, especially with there's the spots are not numbered, so students can park wherever they want. We don't know necessarily who's parking where, when, and so to you know, for me to go out there and wander around the parking lot every morning and every afternoon, I don't know if that's a good use of my time or not. Especially it's not when it's 10 degrees out. But you know, that's my thoughts on it.
Well, and Julie, the other thing is this was going into the principal's fund, so we're really not taking away from operating money per se. That I think that's the other reason this fee is going away. I always thought this fee was collected and went into capital projects so that when we had to repave, that some of that was covered, but that wasn't the case.
Well, I would
Right.
think that's where it would need to go if we're going to collect it. But you said you give them a sticker, correct?
Yeah, they're supposed to put it, they get a little sticker they put in the window of their car.
So it seems like it'd be easy to track who paid. They pay, they get the sticker. No pay, no
Ru-
sticker.
Right, but if I, you know, get my driver's license in November and I start driving to school and I don't go into the office and pay my $25, there's no way anybody knows that I'm doing that.
Right. We have the piece on the backside is there's really no enforcement, and we're having them pay to park where there's ample parking, or they could choose to park in the gravel lot right out front and walk into the school. So there's really no incentive to even pay it. And I feel like it's a meaningless chore for them to get their parking permit and pay the money to park in the parking spot that their parents already paid for.
Well, I'm not sure I agree, but okay. I mean, I think it teaches a lesson too, right? Because as you want things in life, it's gonna, you know, you work to pay for them, you pay for them to get get what you want. So, like I said, this is I only view it that way because parking up there is a privilege, right? Driving to school is not necessarily a given. But maybe in the future when we don't have enough parking or there's more controls or something, maybe that would be the time. I'm okay with it without being there.
Hey, Barrett.
Yeah.
We have a board policy though, so students would still have to register their car with you, right?
Right, I think they still have to collect their proof of insurance and a copy of their driver's license and make and model and all that stuff.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ferks.
Just a couple of updates for the school board members. I've sent most of this information out via email, but it's just always good to get it on tape so people that are listening can hear. We do have staff checkouts coming up. Elementary will be checking out from May 18th to 22nd. Middle school, May 27th. High school will be checking out May 28th and 29th. Middle school staff was able to go through today and get all of lockers emptied out. And then obviously elementary staff will be working on similar things coming up here very shortly. New grades will be finished up as far as no new assignments for students. Friday, May 15th will be the last day for grades. The week of the 18th through the 22nd of May will be utilized for makeup assignments, where students can get things that are obviously outstanding, can be submitted to staff. Report cards, again, will be mailed home for the fourth quarter. And then elementary staff is in the process of organizing an end of year staff parade as well, to work with the bus drivers and Mrs. Rhodes as far as letting a caravan of cars go around the township and through carriage trails at pre-established stops to basically say goodbye to the kids for the summer. So appreciate the work that the administrators and the staff have done. Work continues here, and we're pushing forward to the end of the year on our end. And that's all the updates that I have.
All right, thank you, sir. Next would be hearing of the public regarding agenda items.
I do not have anything on YouTube.
All right, next would be important dates for the district. May 12th, 13th, and 14th is the individual graduation event for our 2020 seniors. The May 18th, don't forget, is our community forum number 4 for our facilities master plan at 7 o'clock. Senior slideshow graduations at 3 p.m. on May 23rd. And then we need everybody in the township to come out and send off our seniors as well on May 23rd at 6 p.m. They're lining up at the school, and I believe the Mr. Swope, Mr. Ferks are going to be putting out a lot more information in regards to the parade route, so that everybody can gather there to send off our seniors. We go into the Memorial Day holiday, May 27th, last day of school, and then we have the following board and facility meetings.
The
and for
facilities
everyone-
meeting will be at 5, not 6.
Okay, thank you.
Just so-
They just updated that just prior to this meeting, so that June 8th facilities meeting will be at 5. And everyone needs to remember that July 1st to the 10th is our shutdown week up at the school. Excuse me.
There could be some slight adjustments to that depending upon what comes out from the OHSAA and the state of Ohio. If they would happen to allow athletic teams and extracurricular activities to resume, let's say July 1, we potentially could be going away from that just because they've missed out on an entire spring and summer. Now, reminder that during that time period, though, the gym floors are getting their refinish done for the year, their annual maintenance. So the gym for sure is going to have to be shut down for a few days, but we could potentially see some kids on campus if the governor allows to do weightlifting stuff or small team workouts or those kind of things. So just a heads up.
All right, thank you, sir. Thanks for clarifying, and that makes perfect sense. And I know all our kids would be excited for an opportunity to do that. So thank you. All right, next, Brennan. All right, next up is treasurer's items requesting board action. Turn it over to Mr. Hattery.
Thank you, Mr. King. Board, tonight I have the following items for approval. A is the minutes that we previously had in April. Those are listed there as well as attached. Item B is the payment of bills for April, which is attached. Item C is the board report, which is attached and also available on the district website. Item D is following appropriation changes amended. as presented, a couple items to note. General fund went down. Some of this was as I was updating the 5-year forecast. Some items we kind of over appropriated and didn't experience the expected cost. As I've said previously, it's kind of hard on some of the services to project each year as a growing school district, since your student population is changing and the services that may be required are not constant throughout every school year. The other one, as you'll see in item F with the following of the funds, we did get 4 grants. So that there is showing the amount of grant money we got, so to appropriate to spend. Student wellness, the Mary Roll and Sarah Davidson spoke with elementary staff and asked related to the student wellness and success dollars of things that could help them with services for next year. So based off of that, they provided a list of items, and that's the potential estimated cost of those to get. So that it was to increase, that's the increase for that. Also, the federal funds, which are your 500 funds there listed. I got noticed last month that they increased our allocation. So those are the additional allocation dollar revenue. The last 3 help pay for staff salaries related to that particular service. And the other one will help with the purchase services related to some staffing that we get through the ESC. Number E is donations received since the last board meeting as presented. F, these are the 4 grants that we got. It is to recognize Laura Rolford for the award music one, helping students make it. It was a combination of Ted Oldegus and Mara Lance, the school counselor. Foundations curriculum was Jay Borchers and Jody Petty, and STEM was Ted Oldegus. So thank you to them for taking the time to fill out the grant applications and submitting that and getting the district some extra revenue to help with any type of program or services that we're going to offer. Letter G is related to, as we discussed before, one of the Bethel, or one of the Ohio budgets was allocating money for schools to update their bus fleet. Bethel was based on their current fleet and enrollment projections, was awarded a grant amount award. This is to approve it. We are expected to get about $51,000 that we can use towards purchasing a new bus. And therefore, that's why you have the next 2 items on here. We are part of the EPC. This past year, we did not partake in the annual survey that they send to all their members. Since we didn't partake in that, we weren't listed in the competitive bid procedures that they follow and the advertise for bids. Therefore, in order for us to use those competitive bid prices, we have to have this resolution passed. And this is the template that comes directly from the EPC, so that we could use the prices that they were able to obtain. Therefore, if that's approved, then we are able to purchase one 84-passenger school bus for that dollar amount, and that's through the competitive bid. One thing to note, it's an 84. As you're aware, this year we had to do 2 buses to Career Tech. Hopefully, depending on numbers, by getting a bigger bus, because currently all of our fleet is 72, this will help with that. Also, they do have this in stock as well, and with the current situation, we went with the one with the luggage support. That way, we can get it as a timely manner, as we are anticipating, I believe, per last conversation at Gail, 2 additional routes for next year. Letter J is related to the Hunter Consulting. We use them as a third-party vendor to help facilitate us with any workers' compensation or unemployment claims. That is the annual cost, and it's consistent from last year. Letter K is scholarship amounts. As you remember, previously the board passed a resolution that allowed to allow administrators to determine the scholarship amount. The only one that was not on there was the FLIC, because that's there's an agreement related to that. Based on the interest that is earned, as well as discussion with the school counselors and Mr. Swope, these are the suggested scholarship amounts for this year. Then you will see, once those scholarships are determined and the recipient is noted, I will come back in the fall to have you approve the recipients. Letter L is related to our risk management insurance. I got the proposal last week. That is the potential cost for next year. I believe it went up 1.3%. That's due to there are 4 additional buses, as well as some changes to our inventory as well. But that is pretty good that it only went up 1.3%. And that is all I have.
Just a quick comment in regards to the bus, like Mr. Hattery had mentioned, it obviously will be used solely at first for the Miami Valley Career Technical Center route to help offset some of the overcrowding that we had last year. We were also able to get the undercarriage storage rack feature as well, which will also help when it's used for field trips or extracurricular activities. Kids can put their lunches underneath there. Athletes can put shoulder pads, water coolers. So it can be used for a lot of different things to allow for more space to be on the traditional bus end, so that more seats can, or more kids can sit in seats. So it's hopefully a feature that we can look forward to adding on our buses as we continue to purchase them into the future.
All right. Brennan, could you scroll to M?
Oh, sorry.
You're fine. All right. A motion to place the items from the treasurer's report on the consent calendar.
I'll move.
All right. So Lida for the motion,
Julie will
And-
second.
Julie for the second. Thank you, ma'am. Any discussion?
I just have one question, Brennan. Did you get a chance to add those topics to the 2 special meeting minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Any
Thank
other
you.
discussions? All right. Brennan, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Mansfield,
Yes.
Ms. Reese,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Elam,
Yes.
Ms. Sebastian.
Yes.
A motion to adopt the consent calendar with the items from the treasurer's report.
I'll move.
Thank you, Danny.
I'll second.
All right, Lori for the second. Discussion. One of the things that I wanted to bring up was to thank Mr. Clute for his personal donation to the school. I know he's done that several times, and he's taken that personally. He's one of the leaders there, I believe, as well, that he is putting money back into the program, and I truly appreciate his generosity. And I'd also like to thank the staff and administrators for working together to receive the extra grants.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank the TIP Foundation and the Troy Foundation, or the Miami County Foundation, because it really helps us out. I just learned actually over the weekend that the TIP Foundation is going to cover our science students who go to state science fair. It's a $60 fee per student, and they had apparently the money in the budget, and they're going to cover our state science fees. So Mr. Ziegler, that's an exciting thing for us.
I agree, it is.
Any other discussion items? Brennan, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Elam,
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Sebastian,
Yes.
Ms. Mansfield,
Yes.
Ms. Reese,
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes. Any other information from the treasurer?
One thing to note, usually tonight I would have presented the 5-year forecast. Last week, the governor made an announcement where they cut a bunch of money from foundation payments. We were very fortunate. We only lost $134,000. I've been having some meetings. I actually have another meeting Thursday with Miami County area or Miami Valley area treasurers as well to discuss some of the impacts. There's also, just to let you know, as Mr. Firk shared with me, there's a House Bill 612 and been introduced to delay 5-year forecast next presentation until December, and it's been declared as an emergency if enacted. So right now, me personally, I am waiting to see if that bill gets passed. If it does, I do not plan on doing a 5-year forecast right now. There's just too many unknowns related to the revenue sources. I don't feel confident putting numbers out there without having more information. However, if that bill is not passed, I will be looking at to hold a special meeting, if the board will allow, the last week of May, either the 26th or 27th of May, to present the 5-year forecast for you to approve. I'm hoping this passes because we don't know what next year, he's talking about more cuts next year. There's a lot of unknowns to put numbers out there and then be, not accurate with all the relevant information. So I just wanted to give the board a heads up of my plan of action right now for that. And as I get more information, I'll definitely relay it to you. But I was just reaching out to make sure that would be okay with the board.
I think, in my opinion, yes, the last thing we want to do, I think all the board would agree, is put out bad information, bad data, and it's data that we can't control. And this is something that the state's doing. And I would hate for us to put out a 5-year forecast saying that we're fine and then turn around in a couple of months saying, hey, we're not fine. The state cut our funds, but you just said in May we were good. So I'd rather us be right than on time. So I'm willing to do a special meeting if needed.
Same here, and I'm sure everybody else would agree with that as well.
Yep, agreed.
That is all I have.
All right, thank you, Brennan. Next up is superintendent's items requesting board action.
Okay, letter A has to do with approval of 2020-2021 supplemental positions. There are some attached resumes as well. Those are for individuals that will be new to the district. Some of the names that are listed here are returning in previous roles, and you've received information on them. I would anticipate moving forward that obviously at this month we would have much more and many more names on this list, but right now we're strictly adhering to, we do not place names on the list until we get proof of people activity permits and background checks and all of those things. So hopefully with some changes that are being made, we'll have many more names on the list moving forward, and a much more thorough list. I would anticipate from past experiences that typically in this month, you would have all of your next fall and next winter people in place if you have them, but we're not placing them on here to get approved until we know they dot all the I's and cross all the T's. Letter B is contract notice for classified staff. You can see the 2-year contracts that are indicated on here. I've also spoke with all immediate supervisors for the individuals that are located on there or on this list. They will all also be finalizing all end of year evaluations. It's kind of been an expectation that's been set this year as far as for these positions, is that when they're up for contract renewals, evaluations must be done not only for certified staff, but it's an expectation on our end for classified staff as well, just so we stay up to date with annual performance evaluations. That is letter B. Letter C is the approval of classified personnel. The purpose for hiring them as sub positions, which has been done previously prior to my arrival. Having spoke with Mr. Hattery in regards to this, once he explained it to me, it made complete sense to me, and I would support it if the board does. But when we hire people in the mid-year of a school year, because of contract with ORC, you want to be able to have some time to be able to evaluate them without having to place them immediately up for a 2-year contract. And so what was been done previously with assistant maintenance, and we're recommending it for our new assistant maintenance and also a second shift custodian, as we've talked about previously, with the needs of that, with additional modulars for next year, is to place them on a sub so that they would be on a 1-year and then a 2-year. We can go through a complete performance evaluation before we offer an extended contract. Letter D is essentially the approval of the classified staff. In addition, we also have our clinician on here as well, and her hourly rate, and that it's not to exceed 30 hours per week, which was similar to personnel that we had in those positions previously. And then letter E has to do with classified rate increases for the 2020-2021 school year. And essentially what it's going to read is that the Bethel Board of Education, for all classified staff who worked in the 16-17 school year at Bethel local schools, will be granted 1-year experience with an accompanying change in hourly rate compensation with this adjusted years of experience level as appropriate, provided the employee is currently employed at Bethel local schools. And that keeps us in line with past practice and current policies. Letter F is the approval of diploma issuances. These were checked multiple times for spelling, but as you can see, there are some very challenging names on there. So if you do notice a discrepancy, please let us know, and we'll make sure that it's corrected as soon as possible. Letter G is what we spoke about previously in regards to elementary, middle school, and high school class fees for the 2020-2021 school year. Letter H has to do with the approval of handbooks. This would be in particular the consideration and potential approval of the elementary student handbook. Letter I has to do with the approval of 2020-2021 service agreement. This is our annual agreement that we receive from the Miami County Educational Service Center. We receive a lot of services from the ESC in regards to physical therapy, occupational therapy, special education. We employ a number of staff members from the ESC and a number of curriculum, a number of other services that we get from them that we approve an annual agreement. Letter J is the approval of the Will Scott Modulars contract. We were able to receive that early this morning. Was able to have our legal team or attorney review it, and I was able to get that sent off to you folks for review. And that's on here tonight for consideration as well. Letter K would be essentially first reading for board policies. So, Mr. King, how would you like me to proceed with K? Do I go through each one individually and kind of give you a brief update of what each one is? Or how would you like me to handle that?
I believe we all have seen them and
Okay.
been able to read them. And this one or in the future, if there's anything that stands out to you that's extremely pertinent, then I would cover it.
No, actually, the only ones that were extremely pertinent on my end was, I think, the ones that Ms. Felton sent to you today was some of the potential changes that you had as far as wording on your end with hiring in the district. And I don't know if you had a chance to see those at all. I think I described to you what Neola had kind of recommended as far as making sure that we stay in line with our coverage and what they will support if we're legally challenged. And so the wording may not be exactly how it was presented to them, but hopefully it was close enough that it will suffice for the board as far as what you guys' thoughts were in regards to those policies.
When I reviewed them, they appeared to be in line with the intent of updating those policies that we had stated. And I mean, from my perspective.
Okay. Letter L has to do with essentially a motion to place those items on the consent calendar.
All right. Thank you, sir. Do you have a motion to place the superintendent's items onto the consent calendar?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Thank you, Lyda. Thank you, Danny, for the second. Discussion.
Mr. Ferks, I did find a name spelled wrong.
All right.
It's Maya Stevenson. Her last name is spelled incorrectly.
Okay. I'll Mr. Swope, can you hear me on that one?
Yeah, we'll get it fixed.
All right.
So I have a question. So other schools have been delaying the approval of supplemental positions. Is it possible for us to delay those as well per advice from the state, waiting for advice from the state because of the coronavirus?
You most certainly have the ability to do that. I guess a couple of cautions. Number one, if you table it and use that term, you would have to vote at the next meeting. So, I would try to find out some other verbiage that you can use to not use the word table. The only second other item that I would make mention of is if the governor comes out and says everything's going to open up July 1st, teams, activities, etc., those advisors cannot lead those without having board approval. So if you feel confident that you're going to make a decision next board meeting, then that would be something that you would want to take into consideration. Because I don't want to run into a situation where all of a sudden he opens it up July 1 and I have every fall and winter sport trying to get work in and I'm telling them no because they haven't been board approved.
Agreed. I agree with that, but we do have at least till June then, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Because
like
he seems to be making a lot of decisions and giving a lot of direction these days. There's something new every day. And
yeah. So I mean, you definitely can do that. I would just say we would want to have a decision either way next month so that we're prepared to handle whatever decision's made.
Yeah, and I would even be willing to call special meeting if he says everything's open back up and, put it on the agenda for a special meeting if it comes to that, so the kids can start whatever they need to with the coach. But, I think several of us are concerned, and not just internal to the district, but, we don't know. There's a lot of unknowns. We don't know what's going to happen to school this fall. We don't want to know what's going to happen with fall sports. And so we're trying to make best decisions, and we only have partial information right now.
Yeah.
And I agree with Lori on the special
That's the
meeting.
best way to proceed. I don't have an issue with that.
I think we use the word postpone. We postpone this.
Can we just pull it from the agenda?
Yeah,
For
just pull
tonight.
it, pull it and
You
postpone
can
it.
ask to have that pulled, I guess, but Brennan, step in and let me know the proper language to use for that.
If we're going to table it, we have to vote on it. Well, we have to vote on it next month anyway, correct?
Well, I guess, yeah. I mean, if you want to say the word table, but just know that it's going to have to be on the agenda next month and a decision made either way, whether we have guidance or not.
Danny, if
So-
we pull it, we have maximum flexibility with what we do.
So this is Jacob. Just as a thought, we're starting to establish our tempo. This is a normal time of year. Actually, we're a little late technically in when we should be doing these. This should have been done in April, as we were moving forward into the summer seasons for athletics, the fall sports. This should have already been done. There isn't a whole lot of information out there, and staying the course and signing, ensuring that we have our athletic providers and coaches ready and available for our season, it would, to me, make sense to go ahead and establish their supplemental positions so that they know that they have a spot with us, versus possibly choosing to go to other locations that are offering the supplementals right now, just so they have a guarantee for a position. I know that no one is making the statement that we don't want any of the coaches that are on the list. They're concerned that, we would put them on contract and have to pay them by ORC if nothing even happens. But are we really looking at a significant amount of money to just go ahead and stand behind these coaches and approve their supplementals and move forward and see what happens? Or does that not make sense?
I mean, I would be concerned if we approve some and not all, I guess. Like if we had information later that meant others didn't get approved, that would concern me. Like I don't see the cheering on here. I don't see other supplementals that, would be coming through. So that would be a fear of mine, I guess.
Well, as I indicated previously, I don't feel comfortable putting names on the agenda without having the information that's expected. I would hope
Absolutely.
We're in the process of some personnel changes. For example, I shared with Mr. King in my last district, every fall and winter supplemental was already employed last month. They had a huge document, and if they can do it there, we can do it here. And it's just right people in place and making sure our things are done, and we're staying on top of it and staying ahead of the game. And there's no reason why the list shouldn't be longer, but we're not going to run into a situation where we hire somebody and then we get a bad background check and we all look foolish.
Yeah, no, for sure. That was definitely not a slam against you. That was just, as far as taking care of everybody, I want to make sure if we're going to take care of everybody, we're going to take care of everybody.
No, I guess I was just saying it more for the fact that I've had several people ask me why they're not on the list, and I said, because I don't have your information. So
Sure.
I guess that's more of like a clarifying statement for those folks that are listening, not necessarily towards the board. So
I appreciate that.
I don't think anybody has anything bad to say about any of them. I think the people that are on the list, I think that they would understand that this is different. We're in a different situation now. I don't think that they would think that we don't have faith in them by not hiring them tonight if we waited until next month. Even if we have normally done this by now, but so many things are different now.
I agree with that, Danny. This is an exceptional time that, we can't see. We just don't know.
Yep.
Okay,
I
so,
still would say wait. I'm for waiting.
okay. Is the recommendation then to remove
Item A.
Letter A.
Hey,
letter A?
Mhm.
Pull that for future discussions.
I would also hope that you guys would indicate that that would be for the May board meeting or a May special board meeting, if possible, or excuse me, June.
Yes.
Correct.
So, I mean, it could be the last day in June, just as long as we have some, but you know, this could be all null and void if he comes out and says fall athletics are postponed. I mean, then it doesn't really matter, but I just don't want to get caught into a sticky situation that if he does open it, we at least don't have people in place. Plus, I
Absolutely.
anticipate our next month's list better be the full list, so.
Well, and I think one of the benefits we have now is the ability to do video meetings. So schedules open up a little bit, a lot easier to be able to, no matter where you're at, get on a meeting.
Mhm.
So I fully intend and agree that we'll have the meeting, any special meeting that's needed as information comes available. Tomorrow they could tell us something new. So
Yeah, if the
but-
majority of you feel supportive of it, I'm okay with it as well.
yeah.
Absolutely.
100% supportive. Special meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Any
Thank-
other discussions?
Yeah, can we note that for item G that we will, the school fees will be changed as our discussion earlier? Because we noted that some would be reduced per the conversations that we had to like go from 5 to 3 and et cetera, et cetera.
So to clarify that, one of the things I was going to ask to do was that we vote is item G is voted on separately.
Okay.
Then we can clarify that all those pieces in discussion.
That works for me.
And before you vote, you asked about spelling on names on the diploma. Does Buckholtz only have one H or two H's? I believe Buckholtz has two H's.
I believe that is correct.
Okay.
Spelled correctly, I just double checked. Buckholtz has two H's. It will be spelled correctly on the diploma.
Okay.
Same thing with Stevenson is spelled correctly on the diploma.
That's the spirit.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Burr, for being there. Okay. So Brandon, did you capture A will be removed, supported for special meetings as soon as we get information about what's happening. G, item G, we pulled out and be voted on separately. Any other discussion on any other remaining topics? All right, Brennan, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mr. Elam,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Ms. Reese,
Yes.
Ms. Sebastian.
Yes.
Motion to adopt the amended consent calendar with the items from the superintendent's report.
I'll move.
Thank you, Lori. Do we
Julie
have a
will
second? Julie with the second. Excellent. Any discussion?
I just would like to thank all the different certified and classified staff for all the videos they've made. I know Mr. Swope just worked on one with the senior class, and Mr. Ferks had done one with the for the whole school. And I know different teachers have been on, and I really loved the bus driver one. And so I just wanted to say thank you for all the efforts there.
Excellent. Great points, Lori. In this unique times, I think we are doing an excellent job and everyone is really putting out some unique products, I think, to share the love with our Bethel family. So thank you. Any other discussions? All right. Brendan?
Ms. Sebastian,
Yes.
Ms. Reese,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Ms. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mr. Elam.
Yes.
All right, next, going out of order, since we pulled letter G out to be voted on separately. Brendan, could you pull up G, please? Okay. So before we go into discussion, do we have a motion to adopt the approval of class fees for school year 2020, 2021?
Go ahead, Danny.
I'll move.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Danny. And Lida for the second discussion. Let's break down. Brendan, could you go ahead and open up elementary? So some of the things that I'm a little back and forth on with this is, right, we talked about reducing our fees and want to keep them the same. There's a unique educational element that's came into the next school year that's of significant cost. With the fact that we're losing $136,000 in this school year and 20 to some other plus percentage increase that we could be losing on a foundation funding for the following school year, the one that will be affected by this, I do worry that we run the risk of significantly reducing our capability to put this money in better spots to serve our school than it would be to change some of the fee schedules. But I thought I would leave that up for discussion. And by the way, knowing that risk, I still want to say that I want to cover the cost of what the school fees were for last year. So whatever that takes to bring us down to maintain our school fees from last year, based on the fact that we have clearly articulated that we're not raising school fees, we're trying to reduce or eliminate them. And so I think that is, my opinion is that's what we have to do, even though we have this risky challenge. So that's my discussion topic.
Well, this is Julie. I pretty much agree with what you said. I was thinking that earlier about the risk of losing a lot of money. And our school fees, I'm with everybody on I think, you pay your taxes, that should include school. Given these are consumables, I'm also okay with having some small fees. And our fees are pretty low compared to most schools. So I'm okay either way, I guess, is what I'm saying. I mean, we can't control the cost of the workbook. So I don't know. I guess either way, I'm okay. You're suggesting, Jacob, to reduce it to the $29 from 36, to at least not raise it.
Correct. That we would, out of our budget, consume the $7 for the kindergarten and whatever it is as we go through. Some are just $5, $8 for second grade for each one of those, so that our fees are at least remaining the same.
I agree with Jacob. For the last 3 years, we've tried to reduce or eliminate fees, and we can all find probably innumerable examples of other school districts that have a certain fee, one fee, or no fees, or higher fees. We could find that, but I feel I want to stay at least where it was last year and not raise the fees. I agree with Jacob.
Well, I don't want to raise the fees. I also think we set a dangerous precedent if we start covering the cost of consumables.
Julie,
From-
I can't disagree with that statement.
And from the end of the elementary, we're already covering all of the costs that have been eliminated there. So those are already being covered by the district in some capacity.
I guess one question I have is, Brendan, can you, I mean, I suppose that we could as a board, but charge a different rate for the same book? So if we're looking to cover the $7 increase for kindergarten, and then that would make their workbook a certain fee, whereas first grade's difference is different, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way would be to charge the whole workbook to the general fund and then do an allocation of expenditure to the school fee fund to reduce the actual cost overall to the general fund. That's going to be your simplest way to maintain the fee. Is pick one of those workbooks, charge it to your whole general, and then I do a reallocation to the, based on what was collected, charge that expense to the school fees for the elementary fund, middle school fund as well, or whatever fees are reduced. That's going to be the easiest way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Does anybody think a parent might be upset that they pay $13 for a reading workbook if they're a kindergartner, but maybe only $5 if they're a fifth grader? And I haven't checked my numbers to know for sure. Does anybody think that might be an issue with community members, that based on their child's grade, they're paying a different amount?
Yes, I think somebody will be like, why am I getting charged $5 at this grade? And I mean, I just know people. If it costs $20, I think we need to charge the $20. Otherwise, it's nebulous.
Brendan, can you explain again what happened? Like the whole 6-year contract thing that you were talking about. So the last time we had workbooks, we prepaid the entire fee 6 years in advance or something like that. Is that what you said before? Can you explain that to me again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, they paid it all up front to get a better discount.
Okay. And this time that wasn't possible because why?
Pardon?
Why wasn't that possible this time?
Well, we looked at it, and I'm working with Jay. We've had going back and forth. At first, we were going to print the workbooks, but they don't allow you to print the workbooks because of copyright.
Right.
So in order to better manage it, to me, it would be better to not order them all at the same time, because you don't know how many kids you're going to have each year. So you may have, I know we're growing, but you may buy more than you need. So if you pay it up front, you might not use them all.
Right.
So it's better to order what we actually anticipate each year than by estimating what we're going to need, since we're a growing school district.
And one thing to clarify with the workbooks from our previous series, when we did our 6-year adoption, a copyright came with it. So we have been able to print all of the pages out of the workbooks and not charge families. So one of the ways in between was to reduce that copier fee, because we do expect that we will be making less copies with parents having to order the book. This company would not allow us the copyright part, if I understand that correctly, like Brennan is saying from Jay. But our previous language arts series did allow us to copy them, so we did not have to purchase them.
If I still had kids in elementary school, it wouldn't bother me if I saw different numbers. Only thing that's going to affect me is the total. And if people know that we're keeping it the same as last year in an effort to keep costs down for the public, then I think they would understand that.
The only thing I have a concern about is, for pay schools, we would have to create 6 separate fees. And if they're not assigned to the right, let's say there's a hiccup or something, they could get a more fee than they are. So my recommendation is if you want to cut fees, that's fine. But I would prefer one rate. It's going to be easier to put in pay schools and easier to assign it to each class that's enrolled by each student. And that's overall, that's not just elementary, that's overall the whole school district.
Well, it sounds like it's a bookkeeping kind of thing. I'm not trying to demean you or anything, but I mean, it sounds to me like that's something that can be figured out.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, then they're going to have to create separate class codes then to assign that class fee. Unless it's different for elementary. You have to have a correlating class to each fee. So they would have to create a separate class, unless I'm wrong in EMIS, to be able to assign each individual fee. Because you're going to have a different fee for each grade level. I mean, I'm up for it. I'm just saying, if something's wrong with EMIS, it's not going to be right on pay schools. Because we've ran into this on the first day of this year. We had some fees that were $0, and it's because there was no class assigned to it. So I'll do whatever. I'm just letting you know the ramifications if you don't set the fees constant throughout.
So what if we eliminated the copier and technology fee and kind of called it a day?
Right.
I mean, we'd come close. Some might still be a few bucks over. I can't see them all on the screen. I was trying to pull it up on my laptop, but
Kindergarten is $1 over.
Yeah, you would. I mean, if that's the direction the board wants to go, then that would work too.
I'm just saying that would eliminate all that stuff you were talking about with having special codes and everything being entered separately, and would still get us the same kind of goal. We'd be pretty close to last year's fees.
Yeah, I think just 5th grade and 4th grade would be $6 more.
Yeah, they range from $5 to $12 difference, so average of $8.60.
Does every grade have a math workbook fee of $10?
That's what I was going to recommend. Let's just move the math workbook fee and call it a day.
That'll be the easiest, and it's a level across the board.
And then we would just include it in workbooks, textbooks, and the elementary building budget.
Okay.
And then some get a reduction and some not too much of an increase, and it works out.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's the easiest fix.
All right.
How do the numbers work out on that though? Are they all going to be under now?
No, your 4th and 5th will be $2 more. Your
But
4th
some of them will be
grade,
under
4th
by
grade,
5, right? And
Two unders.
One's under by 5.
And then
so we've in effect then reduced the overall fees probably.
For 4 grades, you reduced, and for 2 grades, you raised by $2.
So is that okay overall if we're talking about the risk of being cut money? Lori, you okay with that?
I don't know. I was kind of okay with getting rid of the copier and technology fees personally, because we've gotten dinged on those every single year. So I personally would rather get rid of those and charge for the workbooks, but that's my opinion. And I did the math. If we get rid of the $6 fee, it's assuming we have about 125 kids per class, it's going to run us like, I think $4,500. Does that sound right? I did 6 times 6 classes times 125, which was 4,500.
Brennan, could you scroll the screen down so I can see the next grades?
So 1st grade goes down and the others go up, 1 by $1, 2 by $2, and 2 by $6.
Right. And
another option that we could consider is just how do we cut $12 off of all of them so that nobody is increasing? Because the biggest increase is that 4th and 5th grade of a $12 increase. So you either adjust the reading workbook by $12 everywhere. You could take off the math workbook at 10 and adjust the reading workbook by $2 everywhere so that nobody is going over anything that they had from the previous year. That would be another option.
So maybe instead of us, you make a great point, Ms. Petty, is instead of us trying to figure out where to make the cuts, is just say that course fees will remain the same. And Mr. Hattery and Ms. Petty and Ms. Roll will work to figure out where that fixes in the fees.
Sounds good.
Or maybe instead of remain the same, we'll say won't increase.
Right, yes, won't increase.
Well, I guess my other question is when you look at the middle school and the high school, you really can't tell an overall total. I don't even know how our numbers compare to their overall charges of middle school and high school, to be quite honest. So, I mean, I know that they have each line item, but it's kind of hard to decide how much is a senior actually going to pay, how much is a freshman actually going to pay for school fees. I don't know.
It's an adventure every year.
Yeah.
And what's unique about middle school and high school that is a lot of their fees, the newer fees that were on there are for electives where the students are choosing to go to that class versus mandatory.
Okay.
Right.
So you don't have, you guys are kind of unique situation where everything you do is for everybody. Theirs is, well, if you want to do this, it costs us extra, you have to give a little. So I think that's the difference. That was why I was asking those specific questions when we were bringing up each one of the fees. Is that an elective or not? So.
So our language arts series is a K-8. So whatever we're charging at the elementary, I'm assuming we're wanting to keep in line with middle school. So if middle school is going to charge the $20, then I guess my other question is previously we've been directed to give a complete breakdown, itemized list of where every dollar that we're charging parents comes from. So if we're trying to keep, for example, kindergarten at, we're now at 3rd grade. If we're trying to keep 3rd grade at $49 and we're having a hard time cutting it, but also maintaining consistency, do you want us to just have a capped total per grade level? Or, so basically, do you want an itemized list of exactly what every dollar is going towards with some consistency and what the workbooks are being charged for? I might need a little bit more clarification on where we're headed.
Right. So our objective is to reduce, if not eliminate, all fees. That's kind of what we've been looking to try and do. You had your original cost and the new cost listed, so it's really easy for us to see that on yours. But our goal would be to reduce or eliminate all fees as much as we possibly can. So that is kind of the piece, and I would expect that as administrators and leaders that each one of the, if there's courses that overlap elementary and middle school, that you would have those conversations of how that looks like in the fees. The example you brought up is the K through 8. Is that shown in any of your fees for us to see? Did I miss it?
In our fees or in the middle school fees?
In your fees.
The very top one in blue, that is a K-8 fee.
Okay.
If I can, I'll happily help with this discussion. So for elementary, they only have 4 fees on their list that the parent gets. One's total workbook, one's total supplies, one's total class fee, and one is and then the technology and copier fee. So if you just say to max it at the same rate, all we have to do is lower either the workbook or supply fee to get it to that. And then I just have to monitor it at the end of the year and transfer over some of the cost related to ordering one of those books to the school supply fee. It's a little different for them compared to, whereas middle school and high school, each fee is assigned to a class.
Okay. So then Brennan, do you want us and the board, when we submit a new fees list, do you want us to have those 4 things listed with a cost to get to the total that was the same as last year?
Yes, that would be the easiest way. And then when you go to order, I'm going to say probably the English the workbook for English, you do it all out of we'll do it all out of the general fund, and then I'll reallocate a partial of that expense to the school supply related to the total cost, to the total fee we're charging for it.
Okay.
So it'll be the easiest way. So yeah, you only have 4 fees listed. Every parent that gets a fee for is workbook, class fee, which is supplies, and then copier and tech fee. Those are the only 4 fees that are listed.
Okay.
All right, so any more question on that direction? And we can dive, Ms. Roll, we can dive into this even more in work session or one of the next meetings, just so we can especially get us in alignment with the next school year as well. So, or the
What are
following.
we approving? Just so I know. I mean, I'm fine whatever's decided, but what are we actually approving right now?
So as we step forward, right, for elementary fees, the fees would not exceed what would they paid this year. Okay. All right. Brennan, can you take us to middle school?
So wait, sorry, Jacob, just one last question to make sure I understand. So that means what Brennan said could possibly happen if there's a case where the workbook is less than the $20 or the $10. So potentially he could have this thing where they have to enter them separately and keep them separate and different codes and all that stuff he was describing.
No, that wouldn't happen. Brennan's just going to go ahead and take the workbook, and then whatever the fees are, the portions thereof that would go towards that, and then he would take it from that building's budget. That's kind of the back end piece. Our piece would be is that fees wouldn't exceed what they paid for in this school year.
Okay, so when it's listed on the list, then it will be different for different grades, potentially.
No, the workbook won't even show, is my understanding.
You'll have, yeah, it will. You'll have a total workbook cost, a total class fee cost, which is supplies. You'll have copier and tech fee. Those are the only 4 fees established in elementary. So there will be a total difference related to workbook fee for each grade level, because not each grade level has, the same workbooks.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think that's going to work out the way you think it is, because
that's how we're doing it right now.
Let's look at middle school. Because if I'm hearing you right, since we've dropped copier and tech fees, to make sure no one who's taking the required courses pays any more, our new English workbooks should go to $13. We dropped 2 and save $7. So take that 7 off the workbook.
Okay, I'm tracking. So for the mandatory required courses and the fees for those, that would be in the same ideology, that the fees would be the same
amount.
They were same amount for next school year, the 2020-2021, as they paid in the 2019-2020 school year.
Correct. And I'd go down, lab skills stays at 5. We're not increasing it if they take that class. and STEM will stay at the technology amount, which is $3.
Is the lab skills is that an elective?
It is, yes.
I think what we were saying, Mr. Ziegler, was the elective courses could remain at the price you have.
Yes.
Okay. That's good because one way or the other, it comes back to you because as they turn in bills, if we haven't collected fees for them, it's coming out of a different pot.
Correct. Yes. And that's where we're kind of looking at was in the items that were required for every every parent to have to pay, that those fees would remain the same for the following year. For mandatory issues and elective classes at the student's choice, then those fees would be set to pay whatever the cost were to provide those electives.
Okay.
Jacob, I want to clarify one thing because we're speaking publicly. When did we ever as a board make the promise we would not raise school fees? Because you have inflation and you have situations under, out of our control. So I'm very concerned about what we're saying here.
Right. And so what we're saying is that's our goal has been to reduce or eliminate. We understand if we end in a financial situation, we won't be able to, but that's our goal is to do that.
Just to let you know, the English fee this year was $10. So is that what the board would want that to be next year to remain consistent, or is it the 13 that was just talked about?
I think, however you and Mr. Ziegler work that out, that we would be saying that those fees for the mandatory requirements would remain not exceed what they currently are.
Okay.
I think I'm about to make it worse. Last year, I don't think when our bill came, we got charged for the math last year because they had books on hand. So we weren't charged, 7th graders at least weren't charged for math workbooks. So I don't know if we still have books on hand or if we're buying new ones this year. So that fee wasn't assessed to 7th graders last year. And I know that's a little nitty gritty, but it only just popped into my head right now. So sorry about that.
I can't answer that.
I realize, yeah, that's again, another reason why I'm sorry I'm even mentioning it.
No, but it was on our fee schedule. If we didn't have to charge, we didn't have to, but that was what our established course fees were. So
Correct.
In that aspect. Any other discussion on middle school?
So let me clarify. So what are we doing here with middle school?
For the
Bottom line?
mandatory, fees will not exceed what they were for this year. Elective classes will be reflected as they are in the fee schedule.
So the cost of the English book is doubling and we're going to eat the $10 a book. Is that what I'm hearing?
The $10 a book was in the fee schedule for last year.
So it's going to cost us 20 this year, but we're only going to charge 10.
What I was saying was the total course fees would not exceed what they were for this year. And the electives would be as stated in the fee sheet. However that works out is how they would work it out.
Well, I'm not sure I totally agree with that. If things are doubling, I think it's a different case than, eating a couple dollars a student. It could be a significant amount, correct?
So to keep them the same, let me just clarify that because it was already 10, we have saved $7 in the copier and the tech So we only have to make up 3 of the additional 10 that's in there. So that's why it would go to $13 for the English, all 3 grades. And that way their total fees are the same.
Okay, so the English book becomes 13. The first one stays 5, the copier stays 3, the math stays 10.
Or however they decide to split up the costs amongst the middle school fees. As the board, we would just be saying the fees would not exceed what they were last year. However, Mr. Ziegler and Mr. Hattery would divide that amongst whatever fee is there, then they would have the liberty to do that.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand what that number is, and I can't seem to get the number. You know, I'm a numbers person.
Well, Julie, I just did the math. This from K to 8, reducing the fees approximately $10 per student is going to run us about $11,000. So I'm telling you the approximate cost consequence of us making this decision. I really think we need to get out of the weeds, guys. This is not what the board should be spending its time doing, and I'm done.
Well, and I just want to add from the elementary, again, you're not even considering what we've already taken off there, which we're eating as well.
So how about we move it to the work session? How long do we have to do this? What's a drop dead date? If we voted on it at the June board meeting, is that okay?
Mr. Ferks or Mr. Hattery?
June is fine by me.
That's fine by me, but you guys have a motion to do something, so.
So we can just vote no though, right? And then bring it back on the next meeting. If we can't table it, then we can vote no, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So, but isn't during the discussion where we say we would table it?
No, that's not an action once a motion is passed. So we have a first and a second on a motion. It has to be voted on prior to voting on it. You could table it. I don't know, Brennan?
If you table it, you're gonna have to vote, I'm pretty sure, at your next board meeting, which would be your work session.
Okay, so we postpone it again, just like the other one.
But you have a motion in place, so you would have to.
Okay, so we vote no.
No. Correct.
Okay. Check.
Well,
Copy that, as Jacob would say.
on Robert's Rule of Orders, you would vote as you deem fit.
Copy
Okay.
that.
Are any of these orders for these workbooks going to be held up if this doesn't go through though? Like, are we going to have books in time for school?
I don't believe so, because in June, you're gonna pass the adoption for the English one, but we never put in any orders for next year until the first week of July.
I figured July 1st, right? Okay. All right. Just checking.
No, thank you.
Okay. Brennan, could you show the high school? So we covered all the elements of the.
Sure.
and- Any questions or discussions? Okay. So does anybody have any other discussion topics for any of the 3 fees? Okay. Brennan, could you call the roll, please?
Give me 1 second.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Elam,
Yes.
Ms. Mansfield,
I think in light of just needing some more information and to work some things out, I'm going to say no.
Ms. Reese,
No,
Mr. King,
Yes.
Ms. Sebastian.
Yes.
so did we just pass it as they're written?
Correct.
It would not be as written because as we stated in the discussion, how each one of those would have changed. So when we were having the discussion, we were discussing that for the elementary, this is what it would be. And we moved on to the middle school and said that the fees wouldn't change for the normal. We would accept the electives fees as stated. And we said nothing for high school. So high school would be as written.
The motion I voted on, Jacob, was for what was presented, so I'm sorry if I voted incorrectly.
Okay. Yes, it was as we were discussing.
Doesn't the motion need amended then?
I believe so.
I think that's just another reason why I voted no. I just want to see the numbers like exactly how we want them to be, and then I want to vote on it. Like, I don't want to just leave it all like willy-nilly. I kind of just need to see it. So that's why I voted the way I voted.
Again, I think we're getting hung up in, like Lori says, we're getting hung up in this minutia, and it's all about the final number. To me, it's not about how much everything is. It's all about the total.
Also, just to add that you've approved them, but you still have to approve the minutes. The minutes will list all the fees. The document will be attached, the updated one. So we will make sure you have that when you go to approve them.
Okay.
I don't think we voted on an amended one, though. I think you just voted on to pass as written.
No, I would disagree with that. Mr. King put that to separate to vote on. On your comments you guys talked about each classified or each building fees. He made the comment of, you guys all agreed that you didn't want fees to increase in elementary. You didn't want fees, regular fees for middle school to not increase. Electives were okay as presented, and high school was nothing. So it was an amended approval. Even though he did not say the word amended, it's still amended because you guys have talked about it and said what you guys wanted.
But the original,
The motion was already made and we made the decision. The discussion happened after the motion and the second.
right, but the motion was already made.
The discussion pieces lay in any amendments to what you vote on.
But when we amend something normally, you say motion to approve the amended whatever, right? ...
Correct, but this is, since it was an individual item, it was a single item to make a motion on. So as we do with the other ones where we talk about the treasurer's consent calendar and then we make changes, then we adopt the amended consent calendar because it's a second motion. This one only has a single motion. So the discussion would be your amended, and that's why it's reflected in the notes. But since there's a lot of controversy over this and a lot of confusion, let's see, I would like to make a motion to not, to cancel the current school fees that were voted on tonight in section G and move to a work session to be voted on at the next regular work session meeting. That would be my motion.
I second that. This is Julie.
And I need a first.
I'll move.
Thank you, Lida. Julie is the
I'll second.
second.
Yep.
Any discussion? Brennan, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. King,
Yes.
Ms. Reese,
Yes.
Ms. Mansfield,
Yes.
Ms. Sebastian,
Yes.
Mr. Elam.
Yes.
So Brennan, just to confirm, our intent is that motion that was just passed just eliminated the previous motion in regards to section G. Do you understand it as that way?
I have the motion was to cancel the vote for item G.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Now back to the agenda, please. I know you're taking a lot of notes and clicking around, so I apologize. So I think next up is number 11, the board report. Julie, do you want to lead us on this? Okay, I'll go ahead and start. In the facilities committee meeting, there was a significant discussion that Mr. Hattery and Mr. Ferks had discovered with our architects in regards to.
Sorry, Jacob, I can do it. I was on mute.
Okay.
I got the agenda in front of me, so it'll probably be easier than you trying to do it from memory. So
Perfect.
yeah, so the items for discussion were the temporary swing space, which is Will Scott, the units that we're getting. Justin Ferks reported on that, said the administration is working with them and reliable to get permits and et cetera established, and we're right on track where we need to be for those. And they might even get completed a little bit earlier than planned because there's no students around, so it may go quicker. The carriage trails update, I read the notes basically from the 4/7 conference call with the president of development for carriage trails, and that document is available on the website, so you can also go read that for yourself. And then we discussed the facilities master plan. First presented was the survey results. Mike Huff of Levin Porter reviewed those survey results and answered questions that were asked. And then we had discussion on short-term classroom space and phase 1 and phase 2 construction, and some OFCC updates, which were added to the agenda, were discussed. If we delay submitting our master plan, the share that we end up having to pay could go up from the 26, or sorry, could go down from the 26%, and the state share may go up. So the recommendation from the superintendent and the treasurer is to delay the submission of the master plan until October. The OFCC commission meets quarterly, and so that next meeting would be in October, which is the significance of the October date. And then we decided on the next meeting would be June 8th at 5 p.m. That's the summary version.
Thank you, Julie.
Yep.
Do we need to talk further in regards to moving that as the intent of the board? I know we were back and forth. It wasn't a requirement for us to make a resolution for that, but so that the facility committee has the intent of the board since we're all together.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine to discuss. The only thing I know in the past that we've approved was just that we would accept the OFCC's report on the projection numbers and stuff. So we didn't do anything else official before, but absolutely, we can chime in. I'm
Right.
fine with it. It doesn't change much. It takes a completion date from Christmas to February, so it's fine.
Not necessarily an approval, it'd just be kind of a thumbs up so we know how to proceed with whatever you guys want. I mean, we can move forward as is, but if we delay it by a couple of months, we could potentially save up to $2.4 million.
I would support waiting until October because I think our percentage will go up. I mean, we don't know for sure, but I think it's worth it to take that risk given the last 3 years. It's been a pretty significant bump and it may be again this year.
Well, I believe it's went up 38% in the last 3 years.
Yeah, I'm in total alignment with Lori as well. Just to say that we have an opportunity to save our taxpayers $2.4 million and wait 2 months. The problems we'll have with housing the students will already be there, and it'll just be extended 2 months for that significant amount of money. I think it's worth it.
And construction time will get a couple of months cushion as well.
Yep, true. Okay.
I mean, Brennan, the only thing that
Yeah.
would impact this is if the revals would change us significantly compared to other districts, but you don't see any issues here, do you?
No, because we've already just had a reappraisal, and overall, we did go up in value. However, again, the reason why we've gradually inclined is because of the TIF agreement. I don't think you're going to see I think what last year was 8%. With the reappraisal and $15 million increase in residential value, I don't think you're going to see that 8%. I would say most likely, I think the number of schools we drop, it would probably correlate to possibly to 4% increase in state share and decrease in local share. So rather than 26, I could see it be 23, 22% local share.
I like it because we had to miss the community forum, and it's going to give us more time to more carefully consider the community's feedback in our next forum. So a little bit more time there is an absolute bonus in my opinion. So I'm all for it.
Right. And it also gives a little bit more time for the facilities committee to flush out some of those, all those pieces, working with our architects and our facilities master's plan, so they don't feel like they're rushed and that we might miss an opportunity to include something in that 10, 20, 30, and 50-year view. All right. Any other comments from the board members under the board report?
The only other thing I wanted to check while we had the principals here, Mr. Swope, are you going to have a high school handbook for us at some point to approve?
Yep, I am working on a committee to look at the Val-Sal thing. And once I have a proposal from that committee, then I'll have a handbook for you, since it's in the handbook.
Will you be presenting that at a work session so we can make feedback first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
That's what you want.
I think that would be great, because something as significant to a school district as the Val-Sal program, the opportunity to get that right as we roll that out is going to be extremely important to not only us, but our community. Any other comments from the board? All right. Moving on, we'll be hearing of the BEA president, Ms. Brewer.
All right. Just want to do a lot of thank yous. The teachers loved the Board of Education video, as well as the students' videos. They were really sweet, and we were very appreciative of that. We also want to thank Mr. Ferks for the Bethel Strong cups. I can't wait to get it in my hands. So thank you. I want to thank all of the staff. The teachers have just been amazing, helping me out lately, working so hard for our students. Tomorrow we start our graduation stuff. Looking forward to that. Just winding down, but we're not stopping. We're still going. So just want to thank the entire staff for being amazing teachers. So that's it. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Tracy, and thank you for being so strong for our students and helping lead with the seniors as well, and all the trying times that are going on, not only with this pandemic, but personally. So thank you. Next up is hearing of the public. Mr. Hattery, do we have any questions or comments from the public to be answered?
Do not have any at this time.
All right. Next up is executive session. Does anyone on the team see an opportunity or requirement to go into executive session?
I have one for number 1, sir.
Okay.
I'd also like to add number 4.
Okay. Does anybody have any other items that do not fall in 1 or 4? With that, we have a motion to go into executive session.
I'll move, Julie.
Thank you, Julie. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, under discussion, any discussion? I would say that there's no plans at this executive session to make a motion or to enact anything to change. And that's my understanding at this time. Any other discussion points? All right, Brennan, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Reese? Ms. Reese?
Yes. Sorry, could click.
Ms. Sebastian?
Yes.
Ms. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mr. Elam?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. Moving into executive session at 9:19 p.m.